Boobity boop 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 podcast. Doobity ba ba ba.
Alright, ready?
Podcast.
Welcome everybody to another Outside Crowd podcast, and we have got another rip-roaring show tonight, and we are with, well, 2/3 of the crowd. We got Ryan.
Yo!
And we got Billy.
Yo!
And we haven't got Jake. Unfortunately, Jake can't be with us. He's got...
I can do Jake if you want.
Do you want to be Jake?
Hi, boys.
Sounds very
That's
good.
Jake.
He's here. If I close my eyes, he's here.
Yeah, I think he's got baby issues to sort out, so he's doing fatherly duties. But nonetheless, we'll have a good chat tonight.
With the Melbourne stuff.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of chat about how we're getting on this year so far. I mean, we're already 2 months through the year. The guys have got plans as to how they wanted to take their business forward. So it's a little bit about seeing what's working well, what isn't so good, what challenges they've come across, how we're going to deal with things going forward, and just the general state of the market. So, Bill, how's it going this year? How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Obviously, we're only a short while into the year, but I think it's looking good. Had a bit of a dip in workloads towards the end of the year, but it's picked right back up again, which is nice. Getting a lot of quotations out. And I think the target was to definitely put our rates up for any quotes that came in, and I think less jobs are getting accepted, but the jobs that are getting accepted, they're of a high value, which is really handy, because you don't want to be a busy fool, which sometimes I can be, but
Or is I just a fool?
But yeah, so I think that's good. We've got a really good team together. Had a few more people start, and it's gelling very well, and it's working well, and we're getting jobs done on time to a really high standard, which is all I can ask for, really.
So how, if you put rates up and you've lost a number of customers, but yet you've got a smaller number of customers, but you're being more profitable, how many customers as a percentage roughly do you think has fallen by the wayside?
I would say I probably am winning around 60% of quotes.
Right.
Whereas before I was looking at around 80%.
Right.
Yeah.
And that makes it more efficient, more effective for you. It's a more profitable...
It means the jobs get done on time. We're not spilling over as much. And it means we are more profitable. And also there's not an insane amount of pressure to get work done quickly, and it means we can just do the job that we want to do, basically, to the quality that we want to do, and that's what it's about for me, really, is making sure that we're hitting that high standard. That is our ethos, really.
Right.
And putting the money on jobs is obviously facilitating that.
Are you still as competitive to get with other tree surgeons?
Yeah, so we did some research recently, looking at what we can charge, and I wouldn't say that we're the most expensive, we're not the cheapest either, and we're hitting a nice middle point, I would say, and from what I know, just speaking to other people who have businesses, if you're winning that many jobs, you're obviously not charging enough money. So I think it's a good sign, really. I'm learning more about what is acceptable. And
right.
what is the correct amount to charge, and also you obviously have to take into consideration that labour costs have gone up, insurance costs have gone up, fuel costs have gone up. So I think initially we had a massive hike in those costs, and then it's adjusting our rates to meet them, because a few years ago it was much cheaper to run. And now, I'm just playing catch up, I think, and now it's, it's evening out.
Do you get those pangs of guilt when you think, I've got to put my rates up?
No.
You're mercenary, aren't you?
It's difficult because, I mean...
Hard-nosed businessman.
This is an example. I priced a job which is effectively the same job that we do every single year, and it's repollarding a tree. There's some hedge cutting. There's some fruit tree pruning. It's not a massive job. It's a day's work. I sent him a price over. He replied 2 weeks later. He's normally really on it, and he said, "Your price reflects I think it was a 15% increase over the last year." He said, so taking that into consideration, we had to get another quote, which came out pretty much within a few pounds, exactly the same as your price. And he said, so if whoever does the job for us, it will be dependent on who can do it sooner. We had to move a job in a couple of weeks' time, and I offered him the spot, and he said, okay, well, if you can do that, then that's great, we'll use you again. Because he's always been very happy. He's written us really good reviews on Google and stuff. So I know he's happy with the work that we do, but I think initially, if a price comes back and it's reflecting a fair size increase over the previous year, then I'm sure people are going to start asking questions, and that's something that I'll outline if they are if they ask me. But most of the time, we're doing work for people who have never used us before.
But I would have thought, sorry, cutting across you there, just that if he did his analysis and he said it's all like a 15% increase on the previous year, given how much prices have gone up, I would have thought he wouldn't have been that. He would have accepted that's a reasonable increase.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough though. If you want to double check that we're competitive against other people, that makes sense as well. Because if he's doing his due diligence, then you would of course check around to see if that is actually the going rate still, or if I'm just putting up my costs unnecessarily. Or it makes sense.
But the way it came in, the other one was nigh on.
He said within a few pounds of his exactly.
That's
so I
great
know
confidence knowing
correctly.
that it's actually we are within. Yeah. That's quite
So I don't feel guilty charging what I have to charge.
Yeah. So how's your new Maserati?
I thought you were about to say my love life.
like the Maserati, not there.
As good as the Maserati.
Yeah.
Not in the garage.
Yeah. Maserati's not around yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Got
by
a nice
the end of the
Vauxhall
year.
Corsa though.
Good, that's a good box of course as well.
It's nice,
You
isn't
do
it?
drive like it's a Maserati.
Yeah.
You see your smile thinking
Well,
that is
it's
there he
quick,
is.
It's going there. No,
It
good
goes.
stuff. So Ryan, how you been getting on? I know you've been busy.
Yeah, no, we've not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. We are doing okay. As a company as a whole, we are doing okay. It was nice to have a bit of break, and now we're into like Bill said, it's the early part of the year. This weather.
I was going to say the weather has not helped at all.
No, and it's not even just the weather; it's the weather forecast. It tells you it's not going to rain today, and you look up and you think,
Yeah, it did say it wasn't going to rain today, didn't it?
and it
It
rained
smashed it
today.
down.
Yeah, today.
Big boy.
Yes, it was. So that's you think, well, you're trying to work with it as best you can. Look, it's Mother Nature. It's the way got to work with it. But when you're working with not getting the right information, whether it's going to rain or not, and suddenly you think, I've become a weatherman. So,
You know what you could do? I heard that there was a really good podcast that talked about weather.
That's true.
It's worth having a listen to that, because there were some great guys on there having some really good tips. So you might want to have a listen to
That's
that
it.
one.
Well, that's right. I mean, it does. That is all well and good when you can plan it in advance. But when you're trying to do finished work,
Yeah.
I was speaking to another company today. I was speaking to Eddie today, and he was mentioning that it's just they are behind on the work because of the weather. Trying to do the finishing work where you can't do it has a real big knock-on effect. So, I mean, we've just finished one in Tunbridge Wells there, a nice project, Clients Over the Moon, which is lovely to hear. And then now we're on to our next one. We do have a new member of the team. He joined us there a week or so ago, and we've broken up into two teams. So, yeah, I mean, the future's looking bright.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, I suppose the other thing is like this time of the year is all, especially more for like the landscapers necessarily than the tree surgeons. It's like it's a lot more challenging with the weather. I think people don't actually want to start looking at maybe their gardens and getting things done until spring breaks.
Well,
Because I know you've got a lot of quotations to do.
That's it, yeah. Heaps of quotation, which is great, and it's you're talking about that weekend. It's always spring, the bank holiday weekend, Easter bank holiday weekend. Make sure your phones are charged because everyone goes down the garden. Then we have had some great we have had a great load of quotes or we've had a load
Inquiries?
Inquiries, that's the word we're looking for. Thank you, Billiam, my William. Inquiries. We've had a great load of inquiries come in, so it's just having to catch up on our quotations, get ourselves booked in. But yeah, I mean,
I think the other thing also, as I've noticed as well, so say working with you, there's been the client base and the inquiry base has developed from where it first started. So there's more inquiries coming in from garden designers.
That's it, yeah.
As well, which I think is an avenue where you wanted to take it, because I think that's reflecting the fact that what you're doing is being acknowledged by people who know that you can do a good job.
That's right, yeah.
And because you wouldn't get recommended to designers unless you were capable of doing a good job. So I think that's a good positive to be taking forward. But it's still, with all these things, it's still, people want competitive quotes. They want, everyone wants value for money, and it's still quite hard actually getting quotes to break all the time.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. And I actually, just before coming here, I went to have a look at a project, and the gentleman said about he's had 3 quotes on the final quote to get, and I said, that's brilliant. It'd be brilliant to get 3 quotes. I always suggest people should, absolutely. But I did make sure to tell him that we don't look at it as being competitive on price, because it's the standard that we uphold. So it's we were talking about our layers and what we do within our sub base, up to our laying slabs with our mortar bed, and these are different. I was speaking with a landscaper this afternoon, and we were having a conversation about he's had a patio that failed on him, and he wondered why. And I went through my processes, and as I started talking, his eyes went wider and wider, and I thought, well, this is the way, there's no
the way you
phone
do
calls.
it.
Yeah, and that's right, and it's
Buy
And
it
you
at a cheap
do-
price, buy it twice.
there you go,
Yeah.
exactly.
What about if someone said to you, Ryan, I have a little patch in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
We're not small. I mean, whatever size it is. We just want a cheap job. We want a patio down. We need it down. I don't give a shit if it's all. We need that bish bash bishity bosh.
They wouldn't. The thing is, they wouldn't even ring me. They
Well,
wouldn't get.
They have rung you.
If they would, we'll have a conversation. Okay, so this is bring
It's
phone rings.
hypothetical.
Do you want to do
Yeah.
this? Who is it?
Hi there, Ryan. I'm looking for a really cheap patio. Can you do it for me?
So
Now, listen, mate. I do not want a nice patio. I want a shit one.
Hang on,
wouldn't
let me
happen.
put you through to Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy.
Oh no, just the bloke. Ryan.
I'll send him somewhere else.
It's going to be a shit job, but it's going to be expensive.
That's it. Charge like a wounded bull. No, that's right. I mean, it doesn't happen. I mean, I have been to projects before where I've gone into the garden, having a conversation with somebody, and that comment has come up. Hey, look, we just want and I'm like, that's not who we are. So unfortunately, that won't work. Please use a local, you use a local landscaping, have a look, because it doesn't come into my remit. I'm not.
Yeah.
But I think in a lot of cases, clients want it all ways, don't they? They say, we don't want to spend too much. And if you give them a quote and they say that's too much, can you cut it back? And if you do cut it back, they're still then quick to jump if the quality isn't as good, or when you're out there and you're doing something and they're saying, oh, can you just add this on there? We thought this is included within the price, and they want top dollar when you're actually doing it, but they don't want to pay for it half the time. And I think it's trying to get people's expectations to understand what you've actually got within your price and what they're actually buying for their money. Because so many people, you've gone to them with a budget, or they've given you a budget, and they're way out.
Way out. No, and that's the thing. And it's not. And I always say that, people say, can you give me a rough estimate? So I can give you a ballpark, with my experience, this is how much it's going to be. But until I put pen to paper and get it into our quoting system, that's going to be an accurate reflection of the price. That's what it's going to be. Going back to will you do a job? I just want this in. I'm not at that point. For me, if I was to say yes to that project and do a cheaper job, for that client. If anything does go wrong, the first person that's going to be blamed is our company.
Yeah,
So I'm
because
not
unless they sign some
Yeah, but
sort of
but
waiver.
even if they sign something, there is no way in anybody's world that if there's two people standing on a patio that have been done by us, that's been not done properly on the cheap, and we've signed a waiver saying that it's done cheap. I have 3 hairs on the back of my neck, and all 3 of them are standing up, but because I wouldn't do it, but because it's when the neighbours come around for the barbecue and go, "Who's done this?" The client at that time will never turn around and go, "It was our decision to do that."
Yeah, you don't want to
Absolutely
They'll say,
not.
yeah, it was him.
And exactly, and I am not interested because
Yeah, fair enough.
it's not it's quality. Was it quality service, quality product, quality margin?
Yeah, and people should be prepared to pay for that. And it's like most of the time, you think if you put a quotation together, any self-respecting landscaper would be prepared to sit down there and go, yeah, this is what we've done, this is what we priced, this is what we allow for. And the other thing is also giving them a price, it's like a fixed price, because you get a lot of people, I don't know if we covered this before, when they'll say, oh, here's our estimate. And then when they're at the end of the job, what they actually charge them is completely different from what they estimated in the first place.
yeah.
Totally.
You should be able to give them a quotation. And I think landscapers should know the difference between an estimate and a quotation. And clients should know that as well.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
I suppose it all goes down to your marketing as well. Like I said, if it's finding out your target market and then making
We are
sure
Royal Tunbridge Wells Landscape.
Exactly,
Does that not
yeah.
start anywhere there? No.
If you, it's bit. I mean, but still though, if you're still got to do, you can just have the name, but you've got to be marketing to the right people.
That's
So
true, that's true,
It's
that's
knowing who your target market are. So if you're saying, oh, these are the people, people who aren't going to question, the cost of it because they know the quality of it. Then how do you market yourself to those people? And that's kind of what I'm in the process of drilling down.
I definitely hear where you're coming from, and I think the what I've picked up on is yes, we are going down the route of designers. A lot of designers coming to us asking for a quotation, which is great. And then off the back of that, then we're having other the bigger jobs we've done last year. We're getting recommended, and we're going back to a few that wanted us to do more on the projects. But when we move to this clientele, where yes, they necessarily have they have the money to do a quality job, we're still then having to compete with them people in that market, so the landscapers in that market. So we may have moved from smaller projects down here with the other landscapers, and now we've got bigger jobs, and that we're still having to communicate why our price is like that, because it's just a bigger job just means bigger money, but it doesn't necessarily mean the clients won't look at that.
If you're doing work for garden designers,
Yes.
does the garden designer come to you and say this is the client's budget? Because surely they have to do a design within a budget as well.
That's correct. So so it would work. Someone would contact a garden designer, and they would do a design of the garden, and then give they themselves either give a rough estimate of what it was going to be if they had their own landscaping crew, or they would then tender it out. So they would give the drawings to likes of myself, and we would then run through it and give them a quotation based on that, and then from there we can go. But usually with garden designers, depending on how we know them, we can talk about budget. I always try and ask clients for their budget immediately when I walk through the door, so we're all on the same page, and we understand that we have. Yeah,
But there's always quite a lot into, because I mean that initial sort of sales process when you go in to meet a client, there's an awful lot that you can do at that point, because I always get fed up. I mean, there was some little sort of marketing book that I downloaded, and somebody, the first thing was, oh, are you giving free quotations? And I just thought that's a bit of a patronising sort of comment to make, because loads of big and healthy companies have been built on the basis of giving free quotations. Clients expect free quotations, but I think the issue so much is the fact that you need to be, when you're meeting clients for the first time or to find out what their job is, you've got to really be challenging them and asking them and finding out an awful lot more at that stage to see whether establish what their real budget is, what their expectations are, so that you're not led down a route of just going, yeah, okay, I'll do a quotation. Your quotation comes in at 50,000 and they've got a £5,000 budget. There's got to be a lot of questioning and a lot of sort of finding out the ground, the details that they want, because you can suss a lot out just by talking to people and to seeing what their expectations really are, and sussing it out at that early stage. And I don't think a lot of there's enough landscapers or anyone in the outside industries do enough of that, because that sort of, just prospecting, but that investigation at pre-sales stage is really, really important.
I really rate that, because it's something that myself definitely in the last couple of years I've come up against that, where going as a job, I'm communicating about what I love doing, the gardens, everyone's excited, everyone's happy, we're running through it all, and like you said, the budget for what everyone's asking, the clients are asking for, is nowhere near what they actually have. So being able to get in there, and I understand from a client's perspective that it's who are we, so once we go in, it is earning that trust, and it's understanding.
Yeah, it is, and we any company's got to be able to justify themselves to the client, because the client wants to know, well, if they're buying on the basis of quality, then how do they know that William Gordon Countryside Services or Royal Tunbridge Wells Landscapes or Fair Deck are a quality company? So you've got to be able to do that sort of confidence building with the client, but in return you've got to find out from the client whether they are committed to doing this. Whether are they going out to other people, are they just fishing for a price? And there's a lot of sort of toing and froing before you should even, because I think a quotation should only, especially with the amount of time it takes to do one, they should only be given once you know that there is a reasonable chance of actually getting some work from it. And now that's why I think it's perfectly fine to give free quotations, and that's why I find it's it's wrong for people just to say, oh, you shouldn't give free quotations. As long as you've done your prospecting beforehand and you know that there's a reasonable opportunity and both parties are serious about entering into some sort of agreement to do work, then why shouldn't you give a free quotation? Most companies do, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. Oh, and the other beef I was going to have, which is something, is like when you're given a quotation, I get pissed off when clients don't come back and either give you an answer yes or no.
Yes or no.
It's just politeness.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot. I think that for me does drive, because it does take me a long time. I would, I'd honestly say I'd rather dig a hole from here home than sit in front of a computer. But that's what we do. So when there is a lot of time being spent on a quotation, because I like detailing all of my quotes and making sure the client's up to date on what we're doing, we've understood, and that expectation that you're talking about, JB, is that expectation is met, and then you don't get a response.
No,
it is just a yes or no. And I also do find that if the quotation does come in more than they're expecting, that isn't the final. There is a conversation to be had.
Yeah, precisely.
Where's the conversation? This isn't just, that price didn't meet my budget, that's it next. It's hang on a minute, I've worked so hard on this to get this right.
Yeah.
Because maybe old steel guts over here doesn't get a problem putting his prices up, but when I see the price of the quotation, I think, that's what my client has to pay.
Yeah.
And I think, how can I make that better? And I'm looking at it going, I cannot. That is for the scope of work we've got. That is the price for that, and there is not much I can do.
But I think the other thing also with that, isn't it, is if you're pricing, because I've seen the quotation, we've worked on the quotations, and the quotations you put together are very well presented, very well put together. They've been built up from really good sound principles, first of all. So, but you give that to a client, and then if they're trying to compare that with two other quotations, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, where is the objective comparison between what you've got and what they've got? Because if, like you're saying, if you've got different construction for your patio beds, if you're putting different detailing, if you're sealing the patio, if you're doing other bits and pieces compared to some other guy, how a client needs to be able to compare apples with apples, and in a lot of cases you don't, or either the client doesn't know and you don't know whether they're comparing apples with apples. And like you say, you putting that quotation in, that should just be the start of it, and there should be a conversation with it. That's why I get fed up when you try and get in touch with these people to say, look, can we run through the quotation, and you don't hear back from them because you put a lot of work in. I was going to say F of a lot of work in.
Yeah, that's it.
It does. There is a lot of work goes into putting quotations in, and there should be a bit of respect from the client. And I think that should be something that's brought out in the pre-sales process, just to say, well, look, if we put a quotation in for you, can you please have the courtesy to respond to us?
Yeah.
Well, that's the one I looked at just before coming here. the client asked me, would you be able to quote for this kind of material, and then would it be any hassle to quote for this kind of material? And I said, well, the fact that you want quotes like that, and as well as you've got other 3 to do, I said, I've got lots of quotes to be putting out for people that are waiting for us to do a quote, because they know what we're like and they want us to do the work.
Yeah.
I've got somebody who's asked for 3 quotes. Again, rightly so. I'll get 3 quotes. But I said, well, what I can do, and I explained to him the different layers, and I said, apples and apples. I said, look, you made the top of the patio, whether it's a porcelain patio or an Indian sandstone patio, that is the top. It's the underneath that is the difference in price. So that's that. I do explain that. So I try and say, well, to this client, I said, look, if we do a couple of quotes, I don't mind doing that, but I'm not going to do a detailed quote. I'm going to send you the price of that and go, is this within your ballpark? Yeah. And if it is within your ballpark, then I have no problem in spending the time doing a detailed quote, because you will, before we start, get a detailed quote with everything on, with our terms and conditions, and then everyone knows where they're at.
Yeah.
So, it's about trying to, for someone to understand. It was funny because it was. Well, I really wanted a detailed quote. It's like,
yeah. I mean, yes, I don't think there's no problem giving a detailed quote as long as people are actually generally committed and have got a reasonable budget, because, like you say, until you know there's some commitment on both sides, or on the client side as well, then why should you spend best part of a day putting together a quotation, going out, getting supplier prices, putting everything together, and the client's just going to go, oh, it's too expensive. I've only got $5,000 budget. Sod that. That's
hard.
disrespectful.
It's soul destroying.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. I mean, looking at quotes that have gone out and you don't get a reply, it's soul destroying. It's hard to, you get up in this weather to go to work. It's just a reply.
And then you get the others saying, well, I've never had my quotation yet. What have you been up to? And you think,
do you know what? I've just been getting wet for nothing, to be honest with you. I thought I'd stand out in the rain. I thought, why not?
But anyway, we can't grumble about estimating all the time. How does your with your estimating though, Bill? It's a lot quicker, isn't it?
It's a lot quicker. Yeah, I couldn't possibly charge someone to do an estimate.
Yeah.
No.
Quotation, sorry. I mean, I got the longest part of it is going to see them. And then, have you seen this tree? Can I ask you about this? I mean, I'm not complaining about that, but because I actually,
I bet you love that. Look at your face. Look at your face.
I don't mind.
Please ask.
Yeah, because I like to walk around. I like talking about trees, and it's actually my favourite part of the job. I love it.
I'm.
Do you hug them?
Yeah, I hug them, smell them.
I love trees.
Kiss them, cuddle them, and.
Well, that is my. I agree with you. There is the favourite.
I hadn't
part.
finished.
Sorry.
It's funny because my favourite part is going to see the job and chatting to them and having that. That's the initial interaction you have with them after they've phoned you, and it's like the point for me is the point in which you make your sale.
Are we talking about trees now or customers?
Both. It's the point in which you make your sales. It's the I feel like I'm quite a good salesman naturally. And you can. That's when you set the expectation of what you are, who you are, how you can do the job, and also how interested you are. And if I turned up all scruffy and just was like, I'll do that for your love, and then just gave him a top price over text, then that's you're not going to get the quality of customer that you want. But fundamentally, the time is taken up by me standing around and talking to them, and quite often you can very quickly tell by their demeanour whether they want to stand there and have a chat with you, or if actually they're just like, we want to get that done. Can you just do that? And you know what kind of person they are pretty quickly from that. Yeah. So it's all summed up quite quickly. But I'm not spending a day doing a quotation. I'm spending half an hour.
Yeah.
Fair enough, I have to do way more.
Yeah,
that's
the difference.
I have to do a lot more. I spend
Yep.
so much time doing data entry and putting people's phone numbers in and email addresses, and But I suppose it's all good data, isn't it, to have?
Yeah. I don't think
contacts.
I mean, all data is good, isn't it? I mean, so much you can actually have contacts. Financial data as well, analysing everything that you do to try and see whether jobs are profitable, how much you've made, where you've made.
I love financial data. Absolutely love it.
I just done that little minus in the beginning of the video.
God. No, I mean it is. It's like for any business, you need to have metrics to be able to be able to see what you're actually doing. Otherwise, it's like it's pointless. You can't go forward without any insight unless you've got that.
And that's what. Sorry, you done.
Yeah. all
Thank
done.
you.
Ryan, over to you.
But you've been talking for the whole podcast, so
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
At least
go
I
on.
show up. Shots
well, I'm
fired.
here today.
You know, we were talking the other day, Jamie, about shortening quotes, and you know how long it does, because it does take a while to do. And you know, the data entry you're talking about, you know, there isn't the material, there isn't what we've got to put in each individual bit. You know,
All right.
and, every leaf, how many leaves you? You know, do we make it shorter? And I like thinking about that. Been thinking about that a lot, thinking, do you know, no, because we need the data. Because the data, then we can reflect on that, looking back over the year to see what we've done that year. You know, what we can do moving forward, and you know, it does create an accurate price. And it's having that data. And yes, it does take a long time, more time to you know. But you know, I think it's very necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's always worth having. I've always believed that you've got to have sort of basic systems in place. You know, you've got to be able to plan what you're going to be doing going forward. You've got to be able to record, especially for, you know, more for landscaping type work, how much a job is costing. You've got to be able to do your cost value reconciliations, because, you know, otherwise you don't know, you know, are you profitable? Where are you making money? Where are you losing money?
That's it, yeah.
You know, it's just basic sort of basic quantity surveying. Hey, that's why you all need a good quantity surveyor.
Yeah.
But it is, and also like from a business perspective, you also need to see, because the other thing you've noticed, especially with weather like this, one of the biggest things that buggers you up is the fact that your project might be profitable, but if it's then spread out over an extra week because the weather's been bad,
There's your profit.
then your profit's gone out, you're not recovering your overhead, you're losing the opportunity to work on other projects, and that's just a killer.
Yeah, I think like with what I do, you have to take into consideration how productive you are in that day, and what your time could be spent doing. It's like, so me and like today, for example, we're doing a big oak reduction, and we're a man down because James is on holiday. So me and Christian are in the tree together, and then sort of like 1 o'clock-ish, it started hammering down with rain. We're sliding all over the place. It was really hard to climb, but we'd got a really good portion of the tree done, and we're like, do you know what? We'll get down, we'll get all the chipping done, and that's the more productive place we can spend our, you know, it's a job that needs to be done, but if we just, for the sake of it, carry on slipping around the tree, it's just silly, and well, it's all building up on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's being reactive,
Yeah.
you know, to the weather. And like, you know, if it is saying it's going to happen,
Responding, not reacting, sir. It's responding.
Responding.
Don't react.
Yes, you
Respond.
respond.
Just reacting is not, you know.
Yeah.
Just react to it. It's not, you must respond.
It's reacting without thought.
I think yeah, it's proactive. It's proactive reacting.
Proactive responding.
Is that the same thing?
No,
There's a difference.
big difference, massive
Yeah.
difference. Well, that's where we're different, sir.
Yeah.
This is it now.
How's your Maserati? It's just good.
Well, which one?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway,
The Transerati.
this is,
Transerati. Nice.
our time has come round fairly quickly. It's been a really good chat, actually. It's come round quite quickly. But before we go, we've got a couple of things that I did want to do. There was one thing. We had a gentleman I was going to try and get on the podcast, so it was a bit of a shout out for Mike Narrison. He's a gentleman who's from, I thought he was local, but he's under Wild Returns on Instagram, and he helps companies with business advice. And so it's a bit of a shout out for Mark, because we're trying to get him on the podcast, but yeah, he's up in Birmingham and he can get down here. So
there you
apologies
go.
for that. Maybe someday we'll get him down here. So a shout out for him. He's a very nice chap. Look out for him on Instagram. And then apart from that, I don't know if you want to have a couple of quick fire questions.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Favourite band?
Nirvana.
At the moment, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Right. Favourite tree?
Oak.
A Himalayan birch.
Favourite paving slab?
Indian sandstone.
What colour?
Camel.
Oh God.
Quick fire questions.
Cotswold stone.
Hey.
Yeah. It's Cotswold stone is the small
Yeah,
stone.
it
isn't
is,
Sorry,
yeah.
what are those big flags? Those really big.
You can get.
What are they called?
I'm not helping you.
No,
It's
please,
a-
mate. What are they called? They're really big. So they're called something
Big slabs.
You mean Yorkshire
Yorkshire stone. That's it.
Yorkshire.
Not Cotswold.
Fir-
Oh, I'm not a fucking landscape.
No, I'm sorry, I'm laughing it.
First girlfriend. Christian name only.
First girlfriend. Wow.
Never had one.
I couldn't even.
Doris.
Oh, I can't remember Doris. Right, okay. Pizza or beer?
Well, pizza and beer. We
No, pizza or beer.
What?
Beer, 100% for me.
So it's an easy question, Ryan.
Beer.
Beer. Right, and on that bombshell, Ryan having beer
And on that
brings the end of this podcast. So, thank you very much. So, goodbye from Ryan.
See you later.
Goodbye from William.
Bye.
Goodbye from Jake.
Goodbye, guys.
And we'll see you next time on the Outside Podcast, like our crowd
That is so
podcast.
good.